Preston Cates, it is a pleasure to have you on the Singletrack podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be on it. I've been watching it grow and it's getting cool.
I appreciate it. Well, yeah, it's as I was saying offline, it's your first appearance in the pod, so this might be slightly longer than a usual pre-race convo. I think the first question I have is looking at your resume, you ran collegiately at both Western Colorado and U of Arkansas. Did you get the trail running inspiration, the trail running bug in Gunnison, or did it happen elsewhere?
Well, I grew up in Boulder, and so some of my high school coaches, we would just do easy runs around some of the trails there. And so I think the main inspiration came from the friend group that I grew up around. But then when I was on Western State's team, it was just developing myself as a runner. So we did some trail running for sure, but like it was just more like competitiveness. I was just in a good big group of 15 freshmen and I just wanted to grow on it.
How'd you land in Flagstaff?
So grew up in Boulder, and then once I actually went to grad school in Austria for during COVID, and
Wow.
it was a shit show. And so kind of a catalyst for me to like figure out what I wanted to do with myself. And so then I came back to the US and started training really, really hard and actually got my sponsorship and then was deciding, do I want to be in Boulder or do I want to be in Flag? And I picked Flag because we did altitude camps here, so I had some connections, but also I'm a big believer in just personal development. And moving to a new location on your own allows you to completely redevelop yourself. And I wanted to take that life experience over staying in a place where I knew I could just be comfortable. So
On the personal development front, I find that interesting. I think if you asked most people, they'd say, yeah, at least intellectually, I believe in personal development, but you're pretty like that's a very like vocal thing that you care about. Walk us through why is that such a focal point in your life?
yeah, I mean that is I'm just an avid learner. I love growing, and I think that putting yourself in situations to stretch yourself is what does it. And this sport is what holds a lot of that too. And so, to race a really hard, long ultra race, you're going into the unknown and not knowing where you're going to be getting your limits pushed. Just as moving to a new location, you're like, holy shit, I don't know what this is going to bring out of me. And the more you get confidence in working outside of routine, you're just having confidence with your life experience, and then you just carry that with you everywhere you go. So
Um, Talk about the setup in Flagstaff because like when I came into the sport back in 2016, 17, Flagstaff was sort of branded as like the home of the Coconino Cowboys, and it was like the Jim Walmsley, Cody Reed, Frericks, Sensman, Hazen show. Uh, I'm not nearly as tapped in as others are, but like my sense is that like it's changing a little bit, and maybe there's just like different players in town, or um, so talk about that, like where you live in, who you training with, what's the scene like?
yeah, so I mean, the scene is great as long as you're committed to putting in the work, right? What I like about Flag itself is it's very blue collar. Everyone's just like, hey, I'm in here and I'm going to put in the work, and there's not really worried about all the other jazziness of it. And so, I mean, is the scene the same as it was when the Cowboys were going on? Not at all. Like Jim's obviously out in France. Jared's still training hard, but he's like picking in and up over with people. I run with him every once in a while in the canyon. We have a big upcoming guy named Joey DeFeo, if you've heard of him.
Yeah, of course, had him on the show.
Yeah, Joey's a dog. So, um, dog. Uh, but anyways, and so like the scene is it's not as like super fine tight together as maybe the Salt Lake scene or maybe like the Boulder scene, but we have all of the pieces. But I feel like it's slowly recreating itself. In terms of who I train with specifically, I mean, I'm a very like nomadic person already, so I like hopping in with different people all the time. I
Yeah,
run with. Do you know who Lindsay McDonald is?
of course.
Yeah, so I run with her a lot, which is because she's just intellectually she's just a nerd about this sport. She loves
Oh
it so
yeah.
much, and to me personally, like I'm not super into all of the science, but she does a great job of explaining some stuff that is relatable, and then we can talk through some stuff, which is really awesome. But like to me, actually, it's funny enough. I was on Instagram the other day and I saw Jason Coop's pod or something. He made a post about like, I only interview scientists or the best experts because I need to talk about all the facts, which is sure cool. Like I get that. But the thing is if your brain is not wired that way, it's so dense, it's hard to absorb. And so Lindsay is a great combination of like being really educated and smart in the sport, but also allowing me to like run and have fluidity and funness in the conversation. So, but anyways, that's somebody. And then like I just hop on the track with some of the NAZ guys sometimes, or like, and yeah, so just all hops around. So
Hitting some double threshold workouts with Mike Smith.
oh no, not I during no during indoor season I'll hop on the track because well last winter was pretty bad snow, but to be honest, my training is way more fluid and rigid. I actually am self coached, and so but yeah.
That's a great shout out to Lindsay. We have not had her on the pod yet, but she is definitely on the list. We did like a brief interview with her post. It would have been Broken Arrow. I think she got second in the 50K there. Great day.
Mhm.
All right. You also run for Nike. And to me, these sponsorship things are always a black box. Like how much of a part of your life are these deals? Like, so in the case of you running for Nike, is it a full-time thing? Is it a part-time thing? Are you chasing the pro dream? Do you want to keep it like compartmentalized as this like side gig or hobby thing? Talk about that.
Yeah, I started out with working another job at the same time. And I was doing that all the way until Lake Sonoma. And then right before Lake Sonoma, I stepped away from the part-time job and just focused on running.
Nice.
Which is really exciting because like I think that back to the personal development thing, it was nice to have a being able to manage multiple things at the same time, and there's a lot of growth there, but like working a remote job on the computer is so polar opposite to the lifestyle that you need to have as a trail runner. And so specifically an ultra runner. And so now I am in love with just being able to wake up, prioritize my sleep, prioritize my athletic space. And like I do a lot of running, obviously, but I care more about like I'm doing all the other things because I care, because in my opinion, like I'm looking for low hanging fruit, and running is like super important, but I've been running for a long time and I want to make sure that I preserve it carefully so that I don't get burned out. And so
How are you feeling the rest of the days? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience that are saying like, okay, you're a full-time runner, you go do your run, and then what? And like you said, you're mentioning you're doing all these little things. So what does the rest of
yeah,
a day look like?
yeah. So a lot of it's so I'll depending on, well, first of all, I sleep like 9 to 10 hours a night,
Hell yeah.
which is beautiful. And so and then I'm doing a lot of like I'll bike to coffee shops, commute usually always on my bike, and then I'll do a lot of reading and writing. I'll have a nonfiction fiction book depending on motivation level. And then I'll write depending on like insights that are popping up from either book. And then yeah, and so I just try to keep my brain in the right spot because you need to have your brain and your body both in the right spot to be racing competitively. And then actually recently my landlord he has a holiday cheer business. So just casually I've been working part-time for the season as setting up Christmas lights. So that's
Hell
been
yeah.
fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now? What's the nonfiction book?
The nonfiction book is actually the running book of The Perfect Mile.
Ooh, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, it's about the breaking the sub 4 minute barrier with Roger Bannister and Wes Senti, and so it's actually good stuff. I've pulled a few good things out of it. That is, it's the way that they write the story is good, but it's not too dense either.
Okay.
Growing up, I didn't do a lot of running reading because I was just like, dude, I do it all the time. I don't want to, but now I'm like, okay, maybe I should actually read some running books. So
And as an aside, I love that you're writing daily, and this is a totally selfish wish. I shouldn't say selfish, but like as a fan of pro athletes in the sport, I'm wishing that more of them did a better job, at least privately, of documenting their journey over the course of their careers, because then you have this amazing library of content. And I don't know, maybe you convert it into a book, maybe
yeah,
you convert it into a movie. And you know, we need more like autobiographical stuff out there, like Scott Jurek has put out, like Jen Farr Davis has put out. So keep it up. I think it's a good thing to memorialize this stuff and to keep it fresh in the moment, as opposed to like having to reach back into the recesses of your memory like 10 years later and being like, how was I really thinking there? Or like, how are things going? I find that cool.
totally. Well, and that's the thing is on top of I have two different like journals as well. I have a like agenda where like I wake up and then either the night before or the day of, I'm like writing out my tasks, and then I have a reflection where it's like the emotions that I'm feeling, that like the capturing the experiences, and so I separate those because together it gets all mucky. But yeah.
So I think you were saying earlier that it was sometime around grad school 2020, 2021 where things started to get more intentional for you about this sport. And if I fast forward and look at the last like 11 months, you've got a JFK podium, fourth at Way Too Cool, third at Sonoma. You won that Headlands 50K earlier this summer, a win and a course record at the super specific Javelina Hangover race. That's a lot of racing, a lot of really impressive results. I guess for you, has this year felt like a significant step forward in your ultra career? Like, how do you contextualize it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's anything different than my last year, but the thing is that I have more energy to focus on directly my racing. Whereas in last year, it was I moved to a new place, I gotta learn the trails, I gotta learn who my friends are, I gotta learn how I fit in here. Now it's like, dude, I'm in a house with some cool homies. I know where I like running. I know what gives me energy. Now I'm like, sweet, I'm gonna dilate specifically on where I know I'm gonna pick races to do well. Whereas in last year, I was like, I did a Golden Trail race out in Norway and just got my shit rocked. And I like, it's so like, it's completely different. Like there, like my first year was really much so, all right, let's just rip off the curtains and learn and get after it. And now this year's like, okay, now I'm starting to like figure out my shit, and I want to pick things that like I know will help me. So
Are you living in a running house?
yes and no. So we have well actually yes, it's a running house, but like the squad's super cool. So I have my buddy Jake that I was with at my apartment, my last place. He's just like dirtbagger who always looks for a vert, and he didn't grow up a runner, but he just gets a lot of vert. And then I have a D2 guy who actually transferred D1, similar story that I kind of have. His name's Eric Hamill, and so he's getting after it. And then his girlfriend Grace is also here too. She's also is a soccer player that is also a runner. So
Okay.
we have a goofy running bunch, but we're not like crazy runners, I guess. I don't know. So
My good friend up here in Salt Lake, Caleb Olson, said that he stopped by back in August while he was in town for a wedding. Said it was a cool spot.
oh, the house is sick. We fell into a beautiful home with awesome landlords, and then the personalities of the people are cool. And it was great to have Caleb pop in too. So, yeah.
um, all right, kind of a funky question here as we're just getting closer to Javelina topics. If you were to put like, are you familiar with Madden, like the Madden video game football series?
I'm not good at it, but yes.
Okay. If you had to put like, assuming we're putting like Madden ratings around your skill sets in the sports, like how would you rate yourself around like running in the desert and being in these less mountainous, faster racing environments? Like, would you say that your skill set's more in like that pure running turnover arena, or is a race like Javelina, um, outside your comfort zone? Like, how do you think about that?
If you asked me a year ago, I would have been like 12% maybe, because did Black Canyon and threw everything up and it was a struggle. But then now being in here and running in the canyon a lot, I'd confidently say like maybe 75%. Like there's still some things. I think heat probably is one of the hardest things for me to figure out in running versus some of the others. I mean, I haven't jumped into the night running yet, but I know that's going to be a learning curve as well. But specifically for desert stuff, I'm pretty confident. Like this race is like I did the 75K, and like
Yeah.
it's fast, dude. It's so fast. Based off of the weather, it's not going to be as hot as we think, but like I have experience at longer races, and so this is going to be my longest race, but you're only adding a couple more hours, and I'm just a competitive little shit that's going to put myself in the mix. So like I think that right there is like a level that some people just don't have, that I'm just like, I don't care, man. I'm in it. Let's go. So, but yeah.
I was gonna say, like, personality wise, are you someone that uh, can handle a lot of risk? Like, you enjoy being in pretty extreme risk taking environments?
Yeah, maybe too much so. I don't know. So I grew up as a wrestler, and I just like I'm just gonna say I'm a confident person in the sense that like I mean our sport in wrestling was you're on the mat. If you lose, you have to take all of the responsibility, and so and it's a really tough sport of like you are literally fighting someone for 6 to 8 minutes, and like and so from that and having good coaches there, like it I have a lot of just principles that I'm just like I love. And then also I'm obsessed with just competition. Like I play pool, I play chess, and so when you put me on the line, like mentally, I'm just like, all right, how do I make sure this doesn't break so that I can stay in it? So, but yeah.
I like what you said about how in wrestling, it's one of those sports where as soon as you hit the mat, you got to take full responsibility. And I think running is an identical sport in a lot of ways. And and I'm not immune to this. This is an observation that I see in myself, but in a lot of the running, it's interesting to see like the social media postmortems at a lot of these races, both when things go right and when things go wrong, and the level of accountability that people do take or don't take on as a result of those outcomes. I find it fascinating.
Yeah, totally. So, but some people just sugarcoat it and then they don't get the deep learnings. So that's their own thing. But yeah.
Um, Talking more about training, you did that 75K race out in McDowell. That's about as specific as it gets. But then I also see instances where, like, man, you're still dabbling in the big ditch. You're still in nature's time machine. Like, what's going on? Like, to talk about like that sort of mismatch there. And also, are you logging everything on Strava? Because it
No.
seems relatively low, but now, okay, you're a little dark.
Yeah, I'm a little dark, but also generally my mileage isn't high as most people's. Like, I mean, I always ping or look at Drew Holmen's just how his lifestyle is working a little bit. The guy's running like 75 miles a week, and he's keeping up with Zach Miller, who's running 140. Like, and that's where I'm like, dude, fitness isn't everything. It's mental, and if your mental's not there, then you don't get access to the extra fitness. And so that's a big part of
Great
it.
point.
Yeah, totally. So, but like something why I still jumped in the big ditch, I mean, that place is a magical place. And so right now, as I taper into or go into my racing, I go to places that like, and this is hippy dippy, but I go to places that give me energy. The canyon, the canyon is freaking legit. It hardens your legs. It's a 100-mile race. You need to get harden your legs for the descent. Now I'm going to Sedona. I'm going to my flag spots. I'm going to all the places that I know that should make me happy. And I fill myself up and I go, let's go race, baby. Like that's what I do. So
Even if it is hippy dippy, I believe in it too. I think it works.
totally, 100%. And if it, like, well, how does it not work? You're literally excited to be at those places. You're making your day better. You're getting filled with stoke, and then you literally go and just say, "All right, man, I'm taking all this energy I got, and I'm putting everything I can in this race." So,
The Grand Canyon is your monastery.
yeah, no, totally, it humbles people. But yeah.
You talked about Drew Holmen, and I think you had some really good insights there about sort of like the mental physical trade off there and what needs to be in alignment. And again, we don't have to go through everybody, but talk about a couple other Nike teammates you have that stand out that you've taken a few learnings from, and why, or what those have been.
Yeah, everyone is so unique in their own way, and I mean, I wish that there was more, like I had more learnings from every single one of them, but it comes gradually. Like when I first joined the team, I was like, yo, da 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 da, like tell me everything, and everyone's just like, who's the new kid? Like, leave him, like, stop talking to us. That's what, I mean, that's how I was probably perceived. I don't know, actually, though. But anyways, but yeah, Drew's awesome. Tyler is just like methodical. That guy is so methodical about, like, at first, like, it's just a different style of running than I have. Like, I'm just like, put me in it, let's see what happens. And he just knows himself so well and chips at it. So that's why I was stoked to see his Western States performance, where he actually he actually like went from it from the gun kind of a way and like put himself out there. But like, there's so many insights that you can have from Tyler with it. He knows himself. His head is always screwed on in the right place. Matt Daniels, dude, that guy blows my mind on how like his training is. You look at it and you're like, dude, this guy is a workhorse.
Workhorse.
Totally. And so like I don't know. I don't know if anyone will be more fit than Matt in races. Like, it blows my mind how fit that guy gets. And so, but then there's obvious, like, that's why we love the sport, is it's so complex. There's so many layers, there's so many different things that the fit guy doesn't always win. And so, but the way that he like puts himself in the sport and says like, this is me, is impressive. So
he's blue collar for sure, to bring it back to what you were saying at the top of the show.
Totally, very blue collar. So, and then we have some amazing women on the team too. I don't know them as well, but like I mean, Brittany's coming back from an injury, and I met her at a photo shoot once, and she's just like a light of a person. And so I'm super happy to see that she's getting success again with becoming healthy. And so, yeah, there's so many great people. Bailey's amazing. Met her. She's a super high energy ball. So, but yeah.
Right on. So if I look back at your ultra sign up, looks like I don't know if we'd call them golden ticket attempts, but you were in golden ticket races, Canyons in 2021, Black Canyon in 22. Talk about those experiences, and I guess in the context of like, were those also golden ticket attempts, and is that why you're back at Javelina? Like, is the goal to ultimately make it to Western States next year?
I would love to run Western States, 100%. Like, I think that's something that will be on my list. Whether it happens this year, hell yeah. If it doesn't happen this year, like, I'm going to still go for it eventually at some point in my life. The first one at Canyons, I mean, that was like me breaking into the ultra, and I just needed to get
I remember
awareness.
that day.
Yeah, that was me just like getting onto the scene and just trying to like show awareness of who I was, because like this is a crazy sport, and I knew I wanted to be in it from very early in college. So yeah.
Because you were going to blows. It was like Max King, Laney, Noah Brodigam, Anthony Costales, and you were like with them basically to the finish. It was gutsy.
Yeah, it was a gutsy race. I mean, I was with them for halfway. The second half, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to figure my stuff out and make sure I get to the finish line and still like don't drop places. And so, but yeah, and so that one, I was shooting for the stars. If I got a golden ticket there, I would have been jazzed. But like I just knew that really what the experience was. My body wasn't perfect for that training block, and I just knew that since coming off of COVID, it was stacked with a lot of competitors, and that right there was me putting myself against the dogs and seeing how I stacked up, and then also what insights could I get from the best of the sport immediately to start my career. So.
Are you as prepared as you've ever been for any race heading into Javelina in a couple days?
I don't know if I would say that. I think every block is completely different. Every race is completely different, so there's different things to grasp at. But I am excited. I am in my home space. I have a lot of friends and family coming in for it. I'm gonna wear a costume. Like this shit is gonna be sick. And so would I say my training's perfect? I don't like you just don't know, right? Like there's a roll of a dice with ultras any time. But am I gonna lock my head into my mental space when I get into races and say I'm gonna do whatever I can to get to that finish line, regardless if I'm winning it or not? Yes, that's what's gonna happen. So
Last question for the gear heads out there, for the shoe heads out there. What are you wearing from the Nike lineup at Javelina?
ultra flies. Ultra flies for sure for shoes. And then we have some like Nike split like tight shorts that have all these pockets that I'm gonna wear for sure. And then I'll wear a naked belt, and then I'll wear just a Nike shirt that we're gonna color, and then we're gonna make it into a costume, and it's gonna be cool.
Well, Preston, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you. Super excited for your race. We'll make sure to link to all of your social media in the show notes of this episode. Yeah, thanks so much for adding fireworks to this race. Do you have any final thoughts or calls to action that you want to leave listeners and viewers with before we go?
Final thoughts. Freaking hey, if you haven't ran an ultra yet, do it. It's worth it. That's all I'm gonna say.